This is a beginner's guide for Escape from Tarkov in 2023. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to get started in this game. It's a pretty complicated game. If you're brand new, it's going to be really confusing. So let's go ahead and get right into this. Depending on what game you bought, you'll have a bigger storage or a bigger pouch and stuff like that. You can start off by going to character. This is going to show you your stash and what you currently have equipped. You can also go through these tabs to look at your current health and stuff. You can look at your overall stats, your player level, your current XP, all this stuff. These tabs are useful. You can look at your skill levels for different skills, which, by the way, there are skills, and there's different ways to gain each one of those. And then there's also tasks, which are basically quests. So that's what those tabs are. Main thing you're going to be seeing most time, though, you're going to be seeing this screen. So this is your pouch, and this thing, you'll keep these items when you die. So anything you put in here, if you die, it'll stay in here. So you can bring something in, and then if you die, it's still there when you die if you didn't use it. Or you can go in and loot, and if you find something really valuable, like if you find a Tetris or a graphics card, when you're out looting, you can throw it in the pouch, and then when you get back to your stash, you put it away. Guaranteed free money to keep your funds up. So everything in this game is going to cost money, basically, buying new guns and stuff like that. And when you die, you drop everything if you're not familiar. So money goes a long way. The name of the game basically is farming money for newer players. More advanced players have tons of money and just going with crazy amounts of stuff that's worth like $250,000 and stuff because they just don't care at that point. There's also food and water down here at the left. This little energy one is food, and the water drops obviously water. And you'll actually have to drink and eat in order to keep those things up. You can just use a specific amount from a bottle or something, and some things you can only use the entire thing. But you'll use those to keep it up. If you find them in raid, it's nice to use them in raid because they'll give XP if you use them in raid. But if you use them out of raid, they don't give XP as far as I'm aware. There's also grenades and stuff like that, and you'll want to put any grenades or any extra mags in either your pockets or a tactical rig in order for them to be accessible with hotkeys. So we have gear, we have actual body armor, and then we have backpacks. And then we also have these tactical rigs, which you'll put on the tactical rig slot right up here. So when you go in a raid, you have to go know what you're expecting when you go in. Are you going to go in and try to actually succeed and kill tons of players and defend yourself? Or are you like, really new and you're not sure, you're a little shaky, then you might just want to do budget runs or rat runs or something like that, which we'll get to in just a moment. So I just want to get through some of these basics. So yeah, you'll put on whatever you think or take off whatever you think you need to take off to preserve gear. Now, things get really weird with weapons. This is something you might need help with if you're a brand new player. So say this pistol, for example. I may need to, when I first buy it, I may need to unload the magazine, which, because when I first buy a pistol from a trader, they might have a mag that has no ammo in it. In which case, you'd have to, find the exact ammo, drag the ammo onto the magazine, then put the magazine by dragging and dropping back into the pistol, which can be a little confusing. So you unload it, and let's say that I can also unload the ammo if I wanted to. But if it had no ammo, then I could take one of these ammos and I drag it onto it, and then it'll put it in and then put it in the thing. If you're in a raid, there's actually a time for it. So it's not instant if you're in a raid. It'll actually be like, it'll pop them in one at a time, and it takes a little bit of time. So keep that in mind if you're trying to reload in raid. What some people will do, though, is they'll take enough ammo for like another magazine and they'll put it in their pouch. And that way, it's not worth, depending on what ammo you're using, it's not worth a lot of money. You can just drop it then if you find something more valuable to put in the pouch. Or you put it in the pockets and put something more valuable in the pouch if you're out in a raid and you find something. Although some ammos are worth an insane amount of money. So not all ammos will that be applicable. But just make sure that whenever you have a gun and you have a magazine like this, you either want to have it in your pocket or you want to have it in a tactical rig, or else it won't be able to use it when you reload. So you'll be able to reload with R, which is not like other games where you don't want to reload when you're missing one bullet, because it'll actually swap out the mag, and the mags are consistent like that. But also make sure you always have an extra slot available, or else it will just throw it on the ground. So say I didn't have this rig, say I filled all these slots. If I go to reload, when all my pockets are full, it'll actually just throw this mag on the ground and then put this other one in it. And you'll have to actually look at the ground and pick it back up. So keep that in mind. Be aware of that as you're playing, and it definitely could, matter if you're confused about where your mag went. That's how it goes. Also, bags. Don't forget, you can put bags inside of bags inside of bags. When you're out looting, that's also really fun to be able to bring back a bunch of stuff. And loot management is going to be the biggest thing in this game that takes you the first, 10 to 40 hours to get the hang of and be good at. Really experienced players will be able to just drag and drop things super fast, immediately see what they want, and be able to put it in. And that's really important because when you loot, you're extremely vulnerable in this game. So you definitely want to loot fast because you're just standing still on a dead body, and if someone sees you, they're just going to shoot you in the head. Also, there are meds. People call this the cheese, the A12. It's like a basic med. There's also, ideally, you're going to want to use, if you ever get a hold of one, a grizzly from the pouch or something like that, or this car, or a shawara, whatever the heck it was called. I can never remember how it's pronounced. Not from this guy, from this person, the Saliwa, that was what it was. Speaking of which, Traders tab. So you go down here to the bottom, there's characters, there's traders. Well, Traders tab is going to be the first thing you see until level 15. Until level 15, you can't use Flea Market, which we'll get to in a second. So for the first 15 levels, you're going to be using Traders. Prepor, or however you say his name, is going to be like one of the basic ones. You just go to get some basic gun, some ammo, some magazines, whatever. But there's other ones that also sell stuff. Peacekeeper sells stuff, but he wants, he sells for US dollars instead of rubles and stuff like that. There's different currencies, by the way. But he sells, all the attachments and everything. So also speaking of which, he sells US dollars, and you can convert rubles into US dollars. You can see your currencies up here. There's rubles, euros, and US dollars. So if a trader doesn't have, if you don't have the money for the trader, you can convert your money over to it. Or when you sell him things, for this guy, if I sell him this, he'll give me US dollars for it, instead of rubles. So keep that in mind if you're wondering why you can't buy from a certain trader. Also, when you first go here, you might see something real weird, which you're not seeing right now. You're going to see these weird grayed out ones. You can right-click examine, or you can press in the middle mouse wheel in order to examine. And it actually gives you XP. So when you first start off with a brand new character, you're going to go through all the traders and examine everything so that you don't have to do this in raid. And also, it'll get you to level 2 or level 3 real fast by doing this through all the traders. So definitely that at the beginning. Back to the traders. Therapist sells meds and food. And also another thing that you need to keep in mind is you can see the price at the top, and you can see how much they have in stock at the bottom. In this case, it says a lot, which just means like a crazy amount that you can just basically buy unlimited. And some things you'll notice this weird thing where it says a 2 and little arrows. Well, if you click it, what it is they'll only give it to you for a barter. So in this case, I would need 2 toothpastes in order to buy a humpback. Or I would need an EWR in order to buy a Saliwa. Or I would need a humpback in order to get a car. So, there's a little bit of bartering. So if you're in a raid, if you know these ones, and when you find them in raid, you can kind of have some fun, and you can come and get stuff. Like, one of the really fun ones, for example, is Ragman. He sells bags. And if you go down here to the different bags... Oh, he actually doesn't have it in stock right now. But there's... Oh, never mind. I got it mixed up. Not him. Peacekeeper also sells 2 bags. I forgot he has these 2 specific ones. So Ragman sells normal bags that you can just buy with rubles, and also has this one that can be bartered for a helmet. So I generally get bags from him just buying with rubles. But Peacekeeper has these 2 that are like really fun, for example. So if you ever find a hard disk drive, you can just come and get this like pretty big backpack. And if you bring back a hard disk drive and a DVD, then you can get this like gigantic bag. Which those are just like that's just examples, but those are some like these right here are some easy ones to find that are really fun to trade in for some backpacks. So just, keep that in mind. It's just a fun thing to keep in mind when playing. I love bringing back something and bartering like that. It's kind of fun. So the next thing I real quick want to tell you about is the quests. So we got tasks, and you'll unlock some tasks as you level up, and some are hidden behind quest chains. So as you do the quests, you'll get more quests unlocked. These quests will give XP. They'll also give random stuff. So you definitely want to accept quests. There's no reason not to have them active, because some will just have stuff like this one, eliminate 5 scavs. So you can at least knock that part of the quest out just by playing your game normally. And then the other one you can go out of your way to try to get at some other time. And then really quick, there was Mechanic. And when you hit level 2, he'll let you do this Gunsmith quest. Once you accept it, he'll tell you some stuff. And then this will pop up. And then you can accept this one. And accepting that one, if you go and do this quest, will unlock that last trader, Jaeger. And that's how you get that guy unlocked, in case you were curious. Also, some people only buy certain things. So, like, if I go to Prepor, for example, he doesn't buy the pack of oat flakes or the sugar or the water. But if I go to Therapist will buy those things. But there's some things Therapist won't buy, like ammo, for example, or backpacks. And backpacks, I can go to Ragman. And different people will pay different amounts. So, ideally, like backpacks and armor, you'll want to sell to Ragman or Peacekeeper. Even though Prepor may buy them, he won't pay as much. So, if you want to get max money, make sure you sell the correct items to the correct people. As for Fence, you can sell pretty much almost anything to this guy. Pretty much anything. He'll just pay whatever he pays, which will be a little bit different than some of the other people. But if you have something, an item that you just can't seem to find a trader that'll sell, then you go to Fence, and Fence will buy pretty much anything. All right, so that's all that. Now there's the Flea Market tab. Now, Flea Market is something that you can't use until level 15. But once you're level 15, it's basically the auction house for Escape from Tarkov. Once you hit level 15, the game gets way easier, because then you can bring back certain items and players will pay a fortune for some things compared to the traders. Like, for example, if I go to my character here, a Tetris or a GPU, they're worth a ton to other players, or at least they were the last time I played this game. And so you can go onto the flea market once you have it unlocked, and you can sell those in order to make an insane amount of money. And then you can buy things sometimes cheaper than the traders will sell them. So you might be able to get like ammo even cheaper than the traders, or get like, you know, whatever gun you want might be like 1/5 the cost of the trader or something like that. So just be aware of the flea market once you hit level 15. It's a really fun thing to play with if you're that type of player. I know I am. I get addicted as hell to this type of mechanic. So yeah, that's something you should know about. And once you're level 15, you should definitely be using to save you money. Unless you're trying to do like a self-imposed Iron Man where you refuse to use the flea market. But that's usually something that only like experienced players do when they're just bored or something. They'll make a new account and just be like, I'm never going to use a flea market and see if I can do everything without it, you know. But that's kind of an arbitrary thing. You don't have to do that. Then also, if you have friends you want to play with, you go to Messenger and you can go to Friends, and then you can type in their name and you can add them. There'll be pending requests here. If you want to play with them, you'll have to add them first like this, and then you'll have to go play, and then I'll be able to show you. So main menu down here and hideout. Really quick, just because I mentioned the player thing, you'll go in, you'll pick PMC or Scav or whatever. You'll pick something, you'll pick a time, you go next. We'll go over this in a sec. I just want to say how to play with people. If you want to play with people, you get this last thing with you're going through next. Hit find other players. And if any of your friends are in the same thing, looking for the same thing, you'll be able to invite them. So you can tell your friends, like, hey, go to interchange at 9 p.m. And then, okay, and then you go, and then he hits here, and you both look for other players. You can find each other. It's a really weird party system, but that's how that works. And we'll go more about all this stuff in just a second. So the last thing real quick is the hideout. So hideout is something cool that you can kind of upgrade as you play. There's a bunch of different things in it that require certain items, so you can keep in mind certain items, and when you see them, you can collect them in order to upgrade things. So, like, you can increase the size of your stash, for example. If you paid more real-life money for a better version of the game, it starts off at, like, level 4 instead of level 1 or whatever. You click this button, and it'll tell you what you need, and you can right-click inspect to see. So, like, WD-40, I need 4 of those. I need a hand drill. I need 5 packs of nails, and I need 10 packs of screws, and I need 2,500 rubles. It'll take 24 hours to construct it once I start. There's other things like the illumination, and there's like security and all this stuff. And some of these things will give different bonuses for different things. So, you know, rest space and heating and stuff different. I forget which one it was, but one of these will make so you like regen food faster, or water faster, or something like that. So that's the basics of the hideout. You can play around in there. It's got some fun, you know, goals for you to work towards. Okay, so that's like all the everything in the menus and everything about how the basics of the game work. So once you're ready, you're going to go to a trader. You're going to go to Prepor, for example, buy whatever gun. If you're not confident, just grab like a pistol or whatever. Like my budget run, as I don't really care about staying alive, is buy a TT pistol, and then buy this magazine for the TT, and then buy this ammo, and then, you know, just throw in throw it in the mags, put that thing on, go back to your character, put the pistol on, put a mag in the pocket, and then go over to Ragman. This is like the cheapest bag that you can get before you get the flea market. Just go ahead and buy a sling, which, by the way, you can fill item and hit deal at the top to buy things, in case you can figure out how to buy things. And then take that, sling it on, and this is like the super ultra omega budget run right here, basically. But you can do whatever budget run you want. You can look up on YouTube videos of different budget builds where you spend like 25K and, you know, whatever. This build's like, what is this, like a little over 10K. It's like the cheapest you can go, just about. I'm sure you can do something a little bit cheaper than this, but, you know. And then if like, unless you just want to go all in, you just go take your armor and stuff, but I wouldn't recommend doing that until you actually know what you're doing. But then we're going to get to something else you can do to practice. So how do you get better at the game? How do you improve? All that type of stuff. Well, there's actually nowadays in Tarkov, I don't think they used to have this, there's a practice mode you can do. And we'll get to that in a second. So let's go through these menus, though. So PMC is you go in as your character, you bring in all that stuff from your character, and if you die, you lose all of it except for whatever was in the pouch. Scav is a mechanic so that you can get more money if you're like out of stuff. Scav will put you in as one of the scavengers, and you'll be a player-controlled scav, and you'll just be given a random starting set of stuff. It could be it's just random each time. In this case, I can already see I have a shotgun, chest armor, and some garbage random stuff on my head, or some tactical rig. And in some cases, maybe you would just have like a random rifle and no body armor or something. It's just kind of random. But you can go in like that, have no risk, but if you manage to get out, you keep whatever you found. The catch is scavs don't have the pouch, though, so you can't use the pouch. But you can go with a scav and then get a bunch of stuff. Also, don't kill other scavs when you're a scav. Good luck finding them. It's hard to know who the hell's a scav and who's not a scav, but if you kill other scavs, you'll lose, like, I forget what the name is for it. We lose these points towards something, so don't do that. It's bad. PMC, though. is the main thing you're going to be doing a lot of the time. So you go in with the stuff that you have, you hit next, and then you're going to pick a map. And this is where I would recommend, if you're a new player, picking a map and sticking to it for a long time, or maybe 2 maps, until you get, like, really learn and understand 1 or 2 of the maps. So you have, like, your home map, basically, that you're really comfortable on. You know where to look. You know where all the sight lines are and stuff like that. That's, like, the goal to work towards, and then slowly start expanding. Unless you're trying to do quests, and, you know, you can just wing. You can do it any way you want, though. But, like, as far as, like, getting to where you're coming out with big loot and stuff, it's best just focus on 1 or 2 maps, because the maps take a long time to learn. I think you can probably just Google the actual map, but you don't have an in-game map. You can't press M and see a map, so it takes a long time to really learn everything. So once you pick something, then you'll go down here, and there's time. So it always has 2 times that are 12 hours apart, so I can go in at 10 a.m. or I can go in at 10 p.m., which is after dark. Now, I would recommend never going in after dark unless you have some night vision stuff so you can actually see, because it's so dark in this game. You know, the brightness all the way up, it is so dark. So always make sure you're picking a time that's actually going to be daylight. And then once you do that, you can just ready up now, or you can go to the next thing. And then there's practice mode. Now, this is something that you're going to want to do when you're brand new in order to learn the gunplay and to learn the map if you want to. Or, you know, depending on your play style. For me, I just like to just jump straight in. So I'm like, even though I just be like, I'll just grab a pistol and I'll just go in. If I die, I die. But if you want to, you can just do practice mode, and also you can do this to, like, practice your guns and things. So, like, if you have a new gun, you want to try learning the AK and how it, like, fires and how its recoil works and stuff. Practice mode is great. So really quick, practice mode would be like this. You go to game settings, and probably the best thing to do would go to medium or high scavs, and then set their difficulty to whatever. Like, I would just start with medium or something, just easy or medium, just so you can get the hang of shooting them in the head. And then later on, maybe put on hard or something and just make it a little bit more challenging. And if you put on tagged and cursed, they'll just come running to you and try to kill you, basically. But also be aware, horde might crash your game because there's just too many. So I would always stick to medium or high, depending on your computer for that. But yeah, so that's a good way to practice the actual gunplay. And speaking of the gunplay, headshots are everything. So when you go into a game, in Tarkov, your main focus is hitting headshots, unless you see someone doesn't have body armor and you have, like, a really fast weapon or a really powerful weapon. But generally, it's always good practice with most guns just to aim for the head, which I know is hard, but that's just how it is. But yeah, so I'll show some of this in just a second, but let's go back to the other one. So instead of that, I could uncheck that and then go next, and there's this tab. So what this is insurance. And this is something as a new player that you can do in order to keep your funds up, so you don't run out of money if you don't know what you're doing. So, like, I like to do sometimes going with these runs, I'll literally just take a pistol and this sling, and I'll just insure it anyway, because it's not even that expensive. It's $1,000 for the pistol, and then I think like $400 to do this extra mag and the sling or something. And then if I die, which when I go into this build, I'm going to die a lot, what happens is you'll actually get some stuff back. So I'll be able to see in Messenger here, if I go to Prepare, I got my insurance returns. It takes like a day or 2 to get this stuff back. But when you get it back, you can get it, and it will actually have the stuff that you died with. So that is a really cool mechanic that you can do in order to save money. Also, if you don't have room, you can just accept and say yes to this, and you can come back later. You don't have to grab it right then. So, like, if you open one of these and you're like, oh no, I don't have space for this, then, you know, it's fine. But the way insurance works is you'll actually get the exact items back, but with a catch. So what happens is, if somebody loots your items, then you won't be able to get them back. But that's the cool thing about a budget run. If you go with a really, really cheap budget run like this, nobody takes this stuff, like almost ever. So you can just take the stuff, and you'll pretty much always get it back, which will then reduce the cost. So if I pay, say, $1,400 to insure this, and I paid $10,000 originally, I'm basically saving 8,400 rubles every single time that I die. And if you live, it'll still be insured the next time. So you can just keep doing this in order to save money. It's a really good idea to insure with budget stuff, especially with budget stuff. But you can do that in order to pad your losses in the beginning if you are just dying a lot, and not just run out of money and run out of gear, like, immediately. But once you've insured what you want to insure, you go to next, and then ready up if you're ready in order to go in. But before we do that, let me go back to this now. So before you really commit, one of the best things to do is go to factory, pick a time during the day, whatever, and then do the practice mode, set the AI to high, difficulty just medium or whatever, and then hit ready. And then this will let you play against the AI. When you die, everything you loot and everything that you lost, just it resets back to before you went in. So whatever happens here just doesn't exist. You don't get XP, you don't get items. But it is amazing for practicing the gunplay and for practicing loot management and looting and stuff, because you can loot in these and everything. It's like all the stuff is in this. You can search things. You can do all of it. So if you're in here, you can just run to an actual thing and loot it. So for example, these things, like you can loot jackets in this game to find keys or rubles or something. Press F on them to loot them, see what's in them, and you can just go run around and get used to looting. You get used to like what things are lootable. You can learn the maps, and you can also try to fight scavs in order to get used to headshots and stuff like that. So if I run out over here, I'll probably find a scav because I have their density so high. Hopefully. Anytime now? No, I guess not. But yeah, so you can run through these to learn the maps, learn where all the loot is, and then fight some scavs. So definitely do this until you feel comfortable, depending on what type of player you are. I know some players don't want to do this and you just want to jump in and get your hands or your feet wet or whatever immediately. That's fine. You can do that. Okay, so for example, I can... Yeah, actually had a helmet. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. So headshots are everything. Even with this crappy pistol, I can get a kill if I go for a headshot. Also, good practice when you're looting someone, depending on the scenario, is lay down with X, and that'll bring it down like that, and you can make it a little bit harder to be seen. But yeah, so you want to learn how to loot fast. There's searching each one. You have to search it first, and then if you want, you put it on or whatever. And I think searching goes faster as you level up the search skill, basically. But yeah. So now that I have his gun, I can press 2 or 1 to swap weapons, so I can take out his gun, and then I can use it instead. I just got shot in the arm. I don't know where he was at. I guess he was above me. Yeah, he was. So there you go. That's like the basics of combat, and that's a great way to learn it. Great way to find out what items are lootable and what aren't, because there's a lot of items that look lootable, but they're just not lootable and stuff. Also, now that I got shot, I can show you health. My arm's blacked out with a fracture. I would need a splint in order to fix this, I guess. So, you know, you do different meds for different things, whether it's a broken arm, whether it's a bleeding out type of scenario or something like that. So you can take whatever meds you need. I didn't bring any in this. But yeah, so just run to the factory, run around and shoot things and shoot people or the scavs and just loot stuff until you get a hang of the game, get a hang of looting, get fast at everything, figure out what guns you like, what items you want to use and stuff. And then after that, then you start going into actual raids. And it's up to you if you want to bring actual gear or if you want to bring just some budget stuff like a pistol or whatever, like I recommended earlier in this video. All right, once you're done with this, if you're still alive, you didn't want to get out, you can just disconnect and confirm leave. This will kick you out. Doesn't really matter for scav run because none of it was going to stay anyway. And then we can go into an actual run. All right, so for your first actual runs, I would not recommend factory personally, because unless you're like actually coming from, say, Counter-Strike background or, I don't know, Apex or just some kind of PC shooter game that you're actually good with DPS characters, then yeah, sure, you could do factory. But the problem with factory is you'll almost always get into gunfights in factory. Like, just that's literally what factory is. It's just gunfights, and just like you hardly even get to loot anything before you're just fighting people. So if you're like not really super confident in your gunplay, it's not a good one to start off with. It's better to start with ones where you can actually loot, you get in occasional fights, and you slowly work your way up, getting used to the mechanics, getting used to looting, getting used to like exploring and finding things and getting angles and things on people and surprising people and all that. So there's a few options, and just different things for different play styles. Interchange is a really fun one. It's basically the mall. There's like an outside around it in a big square. You can rotate around, or you can go into it and get in firefights down long hallways and stuff, or in sudden, peek a corner and there's just a guy or something. And then the lab is close range. It's kind of more like factory. I wouldn't recommend it until you're more confident with combat. But if you are, then it's a fun one. Woods is basically a sniper map. It's just long range. It's literally what you would think it is. It's just woods. So it's really good if you want to use long range weapons. It's going to be one of the best for that. Customs is kind of more like interchange. It's got more medium size and a lot of stuff to find and explore. Reserves kind of the same way. Reserves, custom, interchange are all kind of just medium-sized maps with a lot of versatility and just like looting and exploring and finding people and having cover, and just like they're good all-around maps for learning. Lighthouse is also the same kind of thing. And then Shoreline's a little bit more like woods. You get longer sight lines for a lot of it, but there's like little points of interest and stuff as well. little buildings and stuff like this. I think this was one of the dorms. So yeah, it's okay for learning. It just depends on which way you want to play. If you're someone who just wants to snipe people, woods and shoreline could be good. If you just want to play, you know, all-rounder, lighthouse, reserve, customs, interchange are good ones to learn first. And like I said, just pick one or two and just play them over and over again until you get really good at them and learn all the maps and learn all the intricacies in the map, learn all the cool loot is and stuff, find loot paths for it and things like that. Or you could even Google specific ones for each one if you want to really go hardcore and do your research before you go all in. And then there's Streets of Tarkov. This is the new one. And this one is kind of chaotic because there's just so many players and it's very confusing. I honestly would not recommend this till you're more experienced just because it's very chaotic and confusing feeling because it's just like a big city. But if you want to learn that, you can learn that too. It's whatever one. But like I said, just stick to one or two and then just keep doing it till you are a master of that map, and that'll make your life a lot easier. Make it a lot easier to keep your funds up because you'll have at least one or two maps that you know you can go back to and on average do well and come out with a lot of money. So yeah, do one, pick a time. Don't check that this time. Hit next. Insure whatever you're gonna insure, and then ready up, and then you gotta wait for the queue, and then you'll go into the raid. All right, once it finds a match for you, this is the final stage. It'll do this, and that's when you gotta get ready, get your hands on the mouse and keyboard, and get ready to play. It'll pick a random spot to spawn you in, depending on the map. Each map has a lot of different spawns on it. And eventually you'll learn these spawns and know what to do based on where you spawn. So in my case, I spawned out here on this highway at interchange. And if I was playing normally, I would just loot some of the stuff along the highway because there's some stuff out here that I could potentially find. And then I would, work my way in or whatever. Or I could just rush to the mall and see if I run into someone immediately and see what I do. But it's just up to you which way you want to play from this point. So, for example, right down the street, there was this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab this anyway. It's like just like knowledge, just knowing this exists. And then just search this and see what I find. And like I said, when you're looting, you're just a sitting duck, basically. So be careful of that. But yeah, so that's it, guys. That's like the basics of how to do this. You're just going to run around and loot. You're going to try to find your favorite loot spots. And then you're just going to, I don't know, play it out and learn and get better and just slowly work your way through all of it. And also there are some things you really need to know about combat that I didn't mention before. There's some really cool stuff. So like Q is lean left, E is lean right. You hold left alt to hold your breath. If you want to see these, you can hit ESC and go to the bottom right. There's a settings button down here. Go to controls, and this is where you can see there's so many things. Like I'm not even gonna try to cover all this in a beginner's guide because it's like intermediate stuff to be able to learn so many things. Like you can blind fire overhead and things, shoot over walls without peeking your head. Like there's crazy stuff. Checking ammo, left alt and T, so you know how many bullets you have left in the mag. Like there's just crazy amounts of stuff that you can do. So definitely check all that out. But one of the most important things is by default the letter O. You double tap it or just tap it a bunch, and at the top right, it'll bring up the extraction points. And extraction points are how you get out of the raid. And you're going to have to just find these, unless you want to look them up online. And they're different every time. I mean, a lot of them are usually the same, but some of them will change. Instead of railway, it'll be Emercom for this map or something. Or, whatever. There's a bunch of different options for different things. Some have little things to them, like hole and fence on this map. You have to take your backpack off and then stand somewhere, and you can get through the fence or whatever to get out. So there's like a lot of cool the exits. And you could definitely just do the map in practice mode and then run around and look for all the exits and or look at maps online to find all the exits, or depending which way you want to play, maybe you just find them on your own over time, and that's just part of the adventure. It just depends on you as a player and what makes sense to you, what way you want to learn the game. Also, it's important to keep in mind that when in a firefight with another player or against a scav, if you are actively moving, your gun sways a lot, and hip fire is extremely hard to hit if you don't have a lot of experience. Like it's hard to even know where you're going to shoot. So you always want to aim down sights as a newer player. But also, one thing that you can do that kind of helps is right before you take the shot, you stop moving for just a split second and then try to flick the shot. Or depending on what gun you have and what way you're playing, you just stand still and just try to shoot them and kill them before they kill you. Depends on which way. But if you're standing still, it makes it much, much, much easier to land a shot, but also makes you easier to hit. So that's why it's kind of important to just like, peek out, stop, shoot, and then, move again, or however, depending on what gun you have and what way that you want to play. Also, you can only hold breath while aiming down sight. It'll bring up that icon at the bottom left, only at first, though, when you're doing it. And you'll run out of breath eventually. It's the blue bar down there, and then it comes back up over time. And then also you have the green bar, which is stamina, which you'll use from sprinting, which you do with left shift, obviously, like most games. And then also you'll be aware of noise, footsteps, and being able to hear people is everything in this game. It's really important to pay attention to sounds, and you'll learn them all eventually. And most people will know that you're coming at them if you run at them because they'll hear you, especially advanced players will. So also another thing you can do is caps lock by default will put you into the slowest walking mode, which makes you the quietest you can be. And then caps lock again will take it off. Or you can scroll wheel and it will lower your speed. You can see the speed at the bottom left, those little like dots down there. And there's the little icon on it at the very bottom left. And if you scroll down to the bottom, now your slowest speed, scroll all the way up, and you're as loud as you can be, but you're also moving the fastest that you can move. And then by default, crouch is C, prone is X. Press X again to get up, press C again to get up. And jumping uses stamina, crouching uses stamina, and that's important to know, manage stamina so you can run when you need to run. And then as a general tip, it's always good to use cover and to move from cover to cover. So I may go to this cover and then wait and then sprint the gap and hope I don't get shot, and now I'm behind cover again and peek because it's so easy to get killed in this game that, you know, being aware of what you can use as cover and moving from place to place like that can make a huge difference towards staying alive. Also, this corner peeking with Q and E, very helpful to expose less of your body while also taking a shot. So be aware that good players will always peek with holding Q or E in order to lean in like this. Also, one last thing I didn't mention about guns. I'm just throwing this in here, even if you guys miss it. That's unfortunate. But you can inspect the gun, look at the attachments. Attachments can make a big difference. You can put silencers on and different sights and stuff like that. You can also uninstall them. So that's something worth knowing. You can also see what caliber of bullets you use in here. If is it single fire, what types of fire does it have, fire rate, etc. More information. But mainly just these attachments that you can take off and put on will make a big difference towards your gameplay. Eventually, over time, you'll learn all the attachments, what all of them do, and how they affect the guns. And one of my favorite ones in this one is to go to interchange and try to loot the power station if I spawn in a favorable spot. If I don't, then I just loot some of the stuff around where I spawned, or maybe I'll go into the mall depending on where the spawn is, and then, you know, get some stuff. When I, you know, maybe kill a scav or two or a player, and then try to get out. It just depends on what your play style is. I missed. I'm dead. I whiffed. There's another one. This is actually a great start. This is what you want. This is XP right here. Also, if you want to know how to level fast, you can check out this other video I made about how to level fast. But main thing is just be good at the game and get tons of kills and stuff. But, oh my god. But there is some nuance to it. Yeah, I can hit that. Oh my god, he ducked right when I did it. Okay. Well, anyway, you get the point at this point. Go and have fun. Kill some enemies. And be sure to bring meds, because otherwise this happens and now I'm just going to die if I don't get to an extract immediately. But yeah, hopefully this guide helped you out, guys. That's how to get started on Tarkov. Hopefully all these tips and information will make your life easier and make the game more fun to get started on. And hopefully now you have a better idea of what the hell's going on and how to get started in this game.